The next big cool down is on the horizon.
And after a brush fire in Pell City, a reminder of what not to do during a red flag warning.
Plus, how one country is teaming up to save an important lake, one haircut at a time.
WBRC Fox 6 News. First Alert Weather Extra starts now.
Hey, Chief Meteorologist Wes Wyatt back with you again here, joined by meteorologist Lauren Linehan. Lauren, you remember these things right here?
I do.
I can't see you right now.
That's probably for the best.
Yeah, these are the Great American Eclipse, August 21st, 2017.
Man, that was pretty impressive. You were here in Birmingham.
I was here. One of the wildest things I've ever covered. It just seemed like the buildup as we got closer and closer, but it's always quite the phenomenon when you see some of the video. But one thing I did notice here, Lauren, I was looking and it says discard and do not use after 3 years.
You know, so may need to get a fresh pair. Not the worst idea in the world.
Yeah, it's a big story coming up this weekend. It's an annular solar eclipse, and it's going to be happening. You can see where the peak of the eclipse will run from near Eugene, Oregon, all the way up through the southwest U.S. and some of the most scenic places in the entire country. It's going to be incredible there. It's going to go across Texas, and with the annular eclipse, it's not a total blockage. So when you look at the eclipse, there's still a fine ring that shows up, and it all has to do with the way the moon and its orbit and its and the way its proximity is located with respect to the Earth. That's what has to do with annular versus a total. But for us, you can see we're going to have 50 to 60% blockage. So yeah, we'll see it, but you've got to have eye protection, and you've got to have ISO approved solar flare or solar filters to see the solar eclipse. So that's what to be prepared for Saturday. It begins at 10:38 in the morning for us. And views are going to be less than impressive than the last one. I mean, we're not going to see, we're talking only 50 to 60% blockage, and there will be better views with another eclipse that we have coming up that we'll be talking a lot about in April. But dry is the word for us right now. It's been cool. We've had some nice mornings. Actually had a little bit of frost out there yesterday morning in some areas. It's going to be dry tomorrow, but how about this? We got some rain coming back on Wednesday. Greatest chance will be in areas to the south, and this is why we're tracking a system in the tropics that's going to move north. There's a couple of tropical storms. Some of this Pacific moisture over in the Pacific could link up with this, but it's going to track to the north and northeast direction. Looks like the bulk of the rain, though, could stay in areas to the south, and that's the one thing we've been trying to fine-tune is how far north will this go. You can certainly tell Wednesday the potential is there for us to see some wet weather across the state of Alabama, certainly heavier totals in areas off to the south. Hopefully it will trend further north, but we will see those rain chances sticking around as we go into early on Friday. But for now, dry, another cool night. It's been kind of breezy out there, and that's helping to drive those critical fire weather conditions. And a fire alert continues in Alabama. Even though we have these ongoing drought conditions, you've got the low humidities, you've got the strong wind gusts. Take a look at this drone video from Lake Purdy today. This just exemplifies how dry it's been. And in a couple of weeks ago, right here on Weather Extra, we were showing you some of those scenes JP flew over, and it was nothing like this. It's amazing how much this has changed here in just the past couple of weeks. Most of the state is still under a moderate drought or abnormally dry conditions. And the dry weather also bringing brush fires that can spread quickly like this one here in Cook Springs. Again, avoid burning and be extra careful out there. Thankfully, this fire in Pell City was put out before it could cause any more damage. And just a reminder that we're under those burn restrictions right now across the state. We've had red flag warnings. Hopefully, we'll get some much needed rain here again on Wednesday.
And in Hawaii, the Kilauea volcano set off hundreds of earthquakes in just 24 hours. Experts say increased seismic activity is to blame. About 320 earthquakes were reported on Friday, with concerns of rock falls also in place. Even though Kilauea hasn't erupted, people can still be impacted by the hazardous volcanic gas. And around the world in Venezuela, environmentalists are coming together in a unique way to combat severe pollution at one of the largest lakes in Latin America. On Friday, people gathered at the University of Venezuela for free haircuts, where they donated clippings for the cleanup efforts at Lake Maracaibo. Organizers of the NGO Mermaid Project say the hair will be used to build mats that will serve as barriers for the lake. They say mats have proven effective for removing crude oil from water. 1 pound of hair alone can absorb between 5 to 8 pounds of oily material. Well, environmentalists say at one point, the lake was the heart of Venezuela's oil boom. And in 30 seconds, we'll be right back with more Weather Extra. And welcome back to First Alert Weather Extra, and one of my favorite segments, being a grammar nerd, weather words. So here's a big one, very relevant this week. What is an eclipse? Well, first of all, you can have two types when it comes to astronomy, a solar and a lunar eclipse. But basically, when you have an eclipse, it's just an obscuring of light. When Wes was showing you that map showing 50%, 60%, that's talking about how much of the sun is going to be obscured. And this happens when you have a celestial body, like for example, the moon, and that passes between two other bodies. And so it looks like the light is being obscured in some way. So you can have lunar eclipses and solar eclipses. We've been talking all week long here on Weather Extra about the highly anticipated event that is going to be here this weekend. It is finally here. This week's Moment of Science, Dan Smith has all the details about this weekend's eclipse and the total eclipse coming in April.
Every now and then, the sun and the moon align to create a spectacular sight. Sounds romantic, but it's just scientific. This week, we're quite literally covering the topic of eclipses and trying not to get a certain Bonnie Tyler song stuck in our head. You've probably heard about the next big one for North America coming up in April, but we're going to start with the basics here. A solar eclipse happens when the moon passes between the Earth and the sun, blocking the light from the latter and casting a shadow on the former. Simple enough, right? Well, they can only happen during the new moon phase, and the moon's orbit is tilted about 5 degrees off from the sun's, making this a pretty rare occasion. Eclipses might all look the same if the moon went around the Earth in a perfect circle, which it doesn't. The ellipse, not eclipse, it takes means there's about 31,000 miles between its farthest and closest point from the planet, the apogee and perigee, respectively. That means the moon can appear 14% larger at perigee, and that apparent size difference makes all the difference. A total solar eclipse happens when the moon is closest and gives that signature halo from the blocked sunlight. Those can have a fascinating temporary reaction at ground level, from flower petals closing up as if it were nighttime to spooked horses and silenced cicadas. An annular eclipse means the fully concentrated shadow the moon casts is not long enough to reach us on Earth. Still creates a big solar ring in the sky, but it's far from safe to view with the naked eye, even in totality. There are also partial solar eclipses where the sun and moon barely misalign, making for the world's hottest croissant, and lunar eclipses switch it up by having the Earth get in the way of sunlight reaching the moon instead. Overall, eclipses, either solar or lunar, happen 4 to 7 times a year worldwide, and here are the next two events to watch for North America. You may have already heard of the annular eclipse on Saturday, October 14th, heading southeast from Oregon through West Texas, and the Lone Star State will get a double dose of the action 6 months later. The total eclipse on April 8th, 2024 may be the celestial event of a lifetime for some of us, with the sun fully blocked for up to 5 minutes in places like Dallas, Indianapolis, Toledo, and Buffalo. Now, saying don't stare directly at the sun seems obvious, but I'm sure at least a few of us know of someone who did it for the 2017 eclipse. Maybe it was even you. That path cut from Oregon through South Carolina, so some West Coast residents might still have their special eclipse glasses. If you really want that full experience along the line, remember to get your pair. It's not like this event's going to be postponed due to weather conditions, which reminds me you should probably hope and pray for clear skies the day of. For this week's Moment of Science, I'm Dan Smith.
And we'll be having more about the solar eclipse content all week long, so keep tuning in each night this week on Weather Extra. Duh, that's a given. So let's get a live look right now at the beautiful sunset over Birmingham. Y'all make sure you snap a photo and send it in on the First Alert Weather app. We'll be right back.
Welcome back to First Alert Weather Extra. Well, some of us, we had a little bit of frost over this past weekend, but there's still that day when most areas will see that average first frost, and there's a possibility of some even cooler weather, more cool weather rolling in here for this upcoming weekend. Matt and Mickey have a preview in this update.
Maddie, it's been a little chilly here lately.
Yeah, it has been. Great weather. Go on the porch, a little bit
the
of coffee. Exactly.
Had to get some Broseph going this weekend, some Brosephine.
So, you know, it was pretty chilly. A lot of people are wondering, when do we normally see our first frost? Well, you know, where temperatures are in the mid-30s. And normally it's late October, especially for areas north and west of Birmingham. As you go farther to the south, for instance, in Bibb, in Chilton County, and Coosa, it's usually early to mid-November. So
we could get some frosty ghosts and goblins come Halloween then.
Yeah, so you know now, so nothing to be shocked or surprised about. But check this out. This was submitted through our First Alert Weather app yesterday morning out of northern Blount County from Al Jones, showing a little bit of that frost on the grassy surfaces.
So if you want to keep up with the Joneses, you're going to need some frost.
There you go. So yeah, if you saw anything like this, feel free to submit that through the WBRC First Alert Weather app. But look at these low temperatures yesterday. A little bit cooler than what we were thinking. We were thinking maybe some mid to upper 40s. It ended up being a little bit cooler than that. Thanks to some dry air and light winds, you get 35 in Gadsden. So
Especially with the breeze, you walk
Yeah.
outside and that's when you make that noise.
You do make that noise. 37 in Pell
Can't help
City, Haleyville at 38, Anniston at 38, and look at Birmingham, Tuscaloosa sitting in at 42. But what about today? What about this morning, Mickey?
Well, it was a little chilly. We got down to 46 degrees. You know, Fred and Tania were talking about that this
They were.
weekend. And
They were.
sure enough, they got it right. Anniston a little cooler. I don't know if it's temperatures, but it's 41 degrees. Didn't quite make it to record territory, which was down into the mid-30s for all three cities.
Well, you know, our average low is 57, so for it to be 41, I think that's worth a woo.
You think so?
But if it hit the record, it's like a longer.
That's
you can
that's
do
a
that.
Big, long,
but-
big long woo.
Yeah, there you go. And then our weather watchers sent us some reports this morning, so thanks to them. Out of Trussville, Tyler Young, 39.
And Sarah Porter, 39. And then we got into the 40s for Tony McDonald in Lamar County, Coker, Moody, Alabaster. John King, the mustache man, reporting 42 degrees.
So once again, here's a look at those average low temperatures per month. And, you know, for today, we're about 57 for an average low. But for the month itself, we normally average with low temperatures right around 54. But you notice it really gets pretty chilly by the time we go November. Average low November 43. And then we're in the 30s for average lows December, January, February, which that's winter. So makes sense.
Well, this weekend, another cold front is coming through, so it could be another morning where we're saying, woo!
Woo! That's right.
Okay. Stay cool, y'all.
All right there. Well, hey, we may be feeling that chill again tomorrow morning. What a lovely view here over Tuscaloosa right now. Had that nice pumpkin pie glow, as I call it, to the evening sky out there. 75 here in Tuscaloosa, wind south-southwest at 8. And here's the view from our tower camera on Red Mountain at 75 degrees. That is what it's all about. Doesn't get much better there comfort-wise. It is feeling nice out there. East of Alabama, 73 degrees. We could see a few more upper 40s on the map for areas here off to the north and east. Those outlying locations again early tomorrow morning is still, I mentioned, dangerously dry across the area. In the tropics, we are watching a wave over the southwest Gulf of Mexico with a low chance for development. There's a couple tropical storms over in the Pacific. You have Lydia and Max, and some of the remnants off of this, some of this Pacific moisture could link up with this tropical wave that's over the Gulf. But bottom line on all this is it's going to start lifting to the north and east and bring us our next best chance for showers starting on Wednesday. Don't know how much. I can't promise a lot of rain, especially for areas to the north, but I think there's a good chance we're going to see some showers, and we'll show you right here. Is first off, very dry at the moment, and then as we go to our forecast maps through tonight, you can see again dry with those 50s and even maybe a couple upper 40s tomorrow morning. But through tomorrow afternoon, we stay dry, and then we start to get some more clouds in here late tomorrow night. And here we go on Wednesday. It's going to take a little while for the atmosphere to moisten up because it's so dry. So the chance of seeing wet weather is going to take a little while to develop, materialize there during the day on Wednesday, but I'm thinking afternoon and evening. Pretty good coverage here. Model data had backed off and kept all this south of us, and then now it's starting to trend north again, and hopefully that northward trend continues because this is the system that certainly has a potential to bring us some much needed rainfall, and we could end up with over an inch of rain in some areas to the far south. At this point though, areas from near Aliceville to Tuscaloosa, Birmingham, Pell City, Anniston, and Point South have the greatest chance of seeing rain out of this. Further north, it's going to be very light precipitation, unfortunately. But if this trends north, that's going to be better news for us. Hamilton, Coleman, and over towards Gadsden. But there's Wednesday night at 11 o'clock, and look at this. I mean, we're still seeing some wet weather, so this is not just an in and out of here. This is that kind of system that can bring some much needed rainfall and certainly help with the extremely dry conditions. But the rainfall amounts, some of the models, they're kind of all over the place right now. We had one model that suggested some of our far southern areas could see up to 2 inches of rainfall. So, and some data only suggest a ½ inch of rain. So, as we get a little bit closer, we'll have more specifics on those rainfall amounts. But at least there is a decent chance of rain starting to develop on Wednesday and continuing into Thursday and Friday. But as we go into the weekend, we will have another surge of cooler air moving in. And as we go to meteorologist Lauren Linehan, talk a little bit about beyond the 7-day forecast. Lauren, it's nice to see not only a system that could bring some rain on Thursday, but this system certainly has the potential to bring some much needed rain, heavy rain amounts to parts of the region.
Yeah, especially South Alabama west is where I think we could see some beneficial rainfall from this system. They're one of the spots, honestly, in the state that has been hurting the most with drought conditions. But in terms of temperatures, you know, we've got this one little chance of rainfall midweek, but 6 to 10 days from now, as we look at that temperature outlook beyond the 7-day, yeah, it does show here in central Alabama, really much of Alabama, we could be seeing below average temperatures across our area. So definitely going to be looking forward to that in the days ahead, especially if you love those fall vibes. So it's not just us here in Alabama, but a good portion of the southeast. So what does that mean in terms of high temperatures? Well, potentially seeing a cool down for the latter half of the weekend, and then going to next week, hey, maybe highs would only be in the 60s. I don't know if it'll actually pan out that way, but then you'll see even as we get into next weekend and the week after that, this is looking at October 16th through 24th, potentially highs in the 70s. And then, of course, everyone wants to know about the lows this time of the year. Well, as we look at next week, check it out. Potentially lows getting down into the 40s again. So generally, those lows running below average. But I will say, unfortunately, 6 to 10 days from now, it looks like here in Alabama, we could still be seeing those drought conditions persisting with below average rainfall in the forecast, unfortunately. So just not looking like for the latter half of October that we have much in the way of promise for some good rainmakers at all. But remember, October is one of our driest months of the year. Actually, it is the driest month of the year here in Alabama. Well, switching gears here, billions of snow crab continue to disappear from Alaskan waters, and this is causing a huge problem for fishermen and the economy. Erica Zuko has the information on why organizers have canceled the snow crab harvest for the second year in a row.
From the Bering Sea to boatyards in Ballard, a decline in Opilio snow crabs has a ripple effect on the economy. Questions are still floating concerning the reasons behind it, but the impact to Washington crabbers is clear.
You're always going to see highs and lows as a commercial fisherman. Sometimes it's good, sometimes it's bad, feast or famine. But lately, the highs are a lot lower and the lows are even lower than that.
Captain Mark Casto of the Pinnacle says it's a relief to at least see Bristol Bay red king crab back up and running.
King crab and paradise seasons, go up there and have just a safe, productive season, and get paid a fair price, so we can make some money and the crew can make some money.
King 5 traveled to Alaska and found researchers searching for answers. NOAA is experimenting with pH and water temperature to see what kind of roles ocean acidification or warming may have played, and studying the effects of predators like cod. Fish biologist Aaron Fedowa says Bristol Bay red king crab has been declining steadily for years, but with snow crabs, the population collapsed.
I do think for an Arctic species, the future is uncertain. Like I said, I'm an optimist, and I can only hope that the conditions continue to support viable populations of snow crab.
Alaska Department of Fish and Game Research Supervisor Benjamin Daly says it hurts to have to close or limit the fisheries, but that it's a decision made for long-term sustainability.
We're trying to, err on the side of conservation and give them the best shot that they have for kind of thriving in the future, given the challenges that they're facing in the environment.
And we hope that we can see some progress there. Before we wrap up Weather Extra this evening, here's a look at today's Weather Almanac.
I've got to give a big shout out to meteorologist Lauren Linehan, always prepared. I mean, she comes back over to the desk. We've got, let's see, an iPad. We've got 3 remotes here and an iPhone.
You know,
And you know what? On both, I bet we can find the First Alert weather app.
We
right?
could, yes, yeah. The First Alert weather app would be on here. So, like Wes was saying, I need a little tool, handyman's belt.
Yeah, we need a tool belt. You know, keep your weather remotes. You know, sometimes you'll see us out on the wall because we have all the different weather systems in the First Alert Weather Center. So we have to we'll have 2 remotes. And I'm like, somebody's going to think I'm sitting there playing like a Nintendo Wii or something,
no,
right?
And we don't have anyone here in the studio. It is just us. So we are controlling those things here. So the power of modern technology, Wes.
Yeah, and it certainly, hopefully, will give us some better news tonight on that next chance of rain on Wednesday, and we'll have those updates first at 9.
We'll keep you updated, but in the meantime, have a safe and happy Monday evening.